Tom woke up to a quiet humming sound that filled the air. It was not the soft sound of the small fan in his old home on Earth. It was deeper, steady, and mechanical. His eyes opened slowly, and for a moment he forgot where he was. Above him was a curved ceiling made of shining white material with thin, glowing lines running through it. The light was gentle and warm. It felt like morning, even though outside the station there was no sunrise. This was his first week on the Unity station, a huge human and alien research center orbiting a distant star. Tom had signed up for the cultural exchange program because he wanted to see something new. Back on Earth, his life had felt quiet and ordinary. Here he was surrounded by different species, languages, and technology that humans had only recently started to understand. He had expected it to be exciting, but nothing had prepared him for what he saw that morning. Someone was sitting at the foot of his bed. It was not a human. The figure sat upright and completely still, like a statue waiting to be brought to life. Her skin was smooth and silver, with a faint shimmer when the light touched it. Her large dark eyes reflected the room like black glass. She had no hair, but a soft ridge ran along the back of her head, giving her an elegant shape. She wore a simple white uniform with thin blue markings that showed her division on the station. Tom froze for a moment. His heart jumped. He had been told that he would be assigned a roommate as part of the program, but he thought it would happen next week. No one told him it would happen in the middle of the night while he slept. The alien turned her head slowly toward him. Her movements were graceful, almost too smooth. She blinked once and spoke in a calm, melodic voice. "You are Tom," she said. Tom sat up and pulled the blanket a little closer around himself. "Yes," he answered, his voice still heavy with sleep. "I am Lyra," she said. "We have been assigned to share this living space. I arrived while you were resting." Tom rubbed his face and tried to think of something smart to say. Nothing came out. "Oh, hello, welcome," he finally managed. She tilted her head slightly as if studying the shape of his words. Then she stood up. She was taller than Tom by a head. Her posture was perfect. She walked to the center of the room and stood there silently as if waiting for something. Tom looked around the small shared quarters. There were 2 sleeping areas, 2 small desks, and a shared kitchen unit. The station designers had tried to make it feel balanced for both species, though Tom could already see that some of the furniture looked more suited to alien shapes than human ones. Lyra placed a small silver container on her side of the room. It opened with a soft click and unfolded like a flower, revealing various objects inside. Some looked like tools, others like decorations. Tom had no idea what any of them were. She began arranging them neatly on the shelf, each at a perfect distance from the next. She moved with the precision of someone who had done this 100 times before. Tom stood and stretched. "Do you need help?" he asked. She turned to him. "No help is required." "Thank you." Her voice carried no emotion, yet it was not cold. It was clear and polite. Tom nodded and started making his bed. He felt strangely aware of every small movement he made. Was she watching him? He glanced at her. She was watching, but not in a rude way. It was as if she was trying to understand something invisible. After a few minutes, she asked, "Do humans begin their day by adjusting their sleeping area?" Tom stopped tucking in the blanket and looked at her. Yes. Most people do. It's like keeping things tidy," she nodded slowly. "Order creates focus." "That is acceptable." Tom smiled awkwardly. "I guess that's one way to put it." He moved toward the kitchen unit to prepare his morning drink. As he poured water into the small heating container, he could feel Lyra's gaze following every step. She walked closer and observed the steam rising from the cup. "This is heated water with flavoring," she stated, not asked. "Yes. It's tea," Tom said. "Want to try some?" "I will observe first," she replied. She stood perfectly still while he sipped the hot drink. Tom decided to break the silence. "So, have you lived with a human before?" "No," Lyra said. "This is the first time my people have agreed to long-term shared living. Your species is unpredictable. That is why the program was created." Tom raised his eyebrows. "Unpredictable, huh? I guess that's not exactly a compliment." "It is not meant as insult," she answered calmly. "It is an observation. Humans display strong emotional variations. Understanding these patterns may help future cooperation." Tom laughed softly. "Well, I'll try to be predictable then." Lyra's eyes narrowed slightly as if processing his joke. "Attempting to remove unpredictability would remove what defines you," she said. "That would not be logical." Tom stopped laughing. "Right. Fair point. For the next hour, they both moved around the room, each learning to exist in the other's presence. Lyra followed a strict personal routine that involved silent meditation, checking a small glowing device, and then arranging her objects again in a new pattern. Tom tried not to get in her way, but he kept finding himself watching her movements. There was something mesmerizing about her precision. When it was time to leave for their assigned orientation shift, Tom stood by the door. "Ready?" he asked. Lyra stepped beside him, straight and silent. "Yes, I will accompany you." As they walked down the corridor, Tom noticed how other humans glanced at Lyra with curiosity and a bit of nervousness. She ignored all of it, walking like she had a map in her head. Tom realized that this would not be a normal roommate situation. It would be something far more unusual. For the first time since arriving on the station, he felt both excited and uneasy. Living beside an alien who studied him like a puzzle might change everything he thought he knew about himself. Tom walked beside Lyra through the bright station corridor. The floor panels glowed softly under their feet, guiding them toward the orientation hall. Around them moved groups of humans and aliens, each wearing simple uniforms with colored lines that showed their divisions. Voices mixed in the air, some human, some alien, some produced by translation devices that floated near their owners. The Unity station was alive with movement, and every corner seemed to hide a new surprise. Tom had spent his first few days trying to understand the layout, but Lyra walked as if she had memorized every hallway overnight. She moved in a straight line, never hesitating, never distracted. People made way for her without her asking. Tom found himself matching her pace without realizing it. When they entered the orientation hall, a tall human officer greeted them. "Welcome to cultural exchange training," he said with a wide smile. "Today we will focus on shared tasks, communication, and daily routines. You will work in pairs, which means you two will be together." He pointed at Tom and Lyra. Tom nodded politely. Lyra gave a slight bow, the way her people showed respect. The first activity was simple. Each pair had to build a small structure using lightweight materials provided at their station. The goal was not the building itself, but the way they communicated during the process. Tom looked at the pile of parts. Lyra crouched beside it and examined each piece carefully. Her fingers moved fast, and within seconds she had sorted everything by size and shape. "You are fast," Tom said. "Classification is efficient," she replied. "Tell me your plan for construction." Tom scratched his head. "I was thinking of a basic tower. Simple design, stable base," Lyra nodded. "Agreed, I will handle the lower structure. You attach the upper segments." They started working. At first, Tom felt nervous. He worried that she might criticize his work or take over. But she did not. She placed each piece with perfect accuracy, and then waited for him to attach the next. When he made a mistake, she did not scold him. She simply turned the piece slightly and showed him the correct angle. Her quiet patience surprised him. Other pairs around them were struggling. Some humans talked too much and confused their partners. Some aliens tried to work alone and ignored their humans. But Tom and Lyra moved like two parts of a machine. By the end of the session, their tower stood taller than the others and balanced perfectly. The officer came over and smiled. "Well done," he said. "It seems you two understand teamwork very well." Tom grinned, feeling proud. Lyra simply said, "We followed logical steps." Later that day, they returned to their shared quarters. Tom felt tired but curious. Living with an alien was no longer just a strange idea. It was real. He watched Lyra take out a small silver object from her shelf. It opened like petals of a flower, revealing a thin glowing disc inside. She placed it on the table, and a set of moving shapes appeared above it, forming symbols he could not read. "What is that?" Tom asked. "This is a memory map," Lyra said. "It stores knowledge from my home. I review it every day to keep my thinking patterns stable." Tom leaned closer. "Looks complicated. Can I see?" She tapped the disc, and one of the shapes shifted into a floating sphere that showed a landscape. It was unlike anything Tom had ever seen. Silver trees with transparent leaves stood on hills made of crystal-like ground. Rivers of light flowed through the valleys, glowing softly. In the sky hung 3 moons, each a different color. "This is where I was born," she said. "The surface is stable. The environment is controlled. There are no sudden changes. Our society is built on patterns that repeat. It creates harmony." Tom stared in amazement. "It's beautiful. My world is nothing like that. We have storms, earthquakes, changing seasons. It's unpredictable. Lyra studied his expression. This may explain why humans adapt quickly. Your world trains you to expect change, Tom smiled. Yeah, we don't get to control much. We just deal with it. That evening, Tom made a simple meal using the kitchen unit. Lyra watched closely as he boiled water, added rice, and cooked vegetables. She asked questions about each step, not just about what he was doing, but why he was doing it. When he explained seasoning, her eyes narrowed in thought. She seemed fascinated by the idea of changing flavor for personal preference. Her people did not cook like this. They consumed prepared nutrient blocks that tasted the same every time. When Tom offered her a small plate, she accepted it with both hands, which was a gesture of respect in her culture. She took one bite, then paused. Her face remained unreadable. Tom waited nervously. Finally, she said, "The texture is complex. The flavors are layered. It is unexpected but not unpleasant." Tom laughed. "I'll take that as a good review." The next morning, Tom decided to go for a run on the station track. It was a circular hallway built for exercise. He tied his shoes and stepped outside. To his surprise, Lyra was waiting by the door. "You run at this time every day," she said. "I will join." Tom was unsure if she could keep up. "Are you sure?" "It's not a walk. It's a run." "I wish to observe," she said. They started slowly. Tom set his usual pace, expecting her to fall behind. Instead, she matched his speed perfectly, her long steps smooth and steady. She did not pant or sweat. Her breathing was silent. Tom tried to increase his speed. She adjusted without difficulty. Other runners glanced at them with surprise. After several laps, Tom slowed down, catching his breath. Lyra stopped beside him without a hint of exhaustion. "You adapt your speed based on personal limits," she said calmly. "Interesting." Tom wiped his forehead. "Yeah, it's about knowing your body." She nodded. "Your method is inefficient for my kind, but it shows determination. I respect that." Tom felt a small burst of pride. It was not every day that a member of another species said something like that. Over the next few days, their routine became a rhythm. Morning runs, shared meals, work sessions, and quiet evenings where Tom introduced her to small human habits like music and stories. She showed him alien puzzles that trained logical thinking. He told her jokes that made her tilt her head in confusion, then sometimes laugh in a sharp, unexpected way. Each day they learned a little more about each other. For Tom, living with Lyra was no longer just about cultural exchange. It was becoming something deeper. He was starting to understand her world, and she was slowly beginning to understand his. He did not know it yet, but this growing connection would soon be tested in a way neither of them could have imagined. Night on Unity Station was not like night on Earth. There was no moon, no stars outside the window, only the endless black of space. The station's lights dimmed slowly, changing from bright white to a calm golden shade. The halls became quieter. Most crew members returned to their quarters to rest. Only the gentle hum of the engines remained. Tom lay on his bed staring at the ceiling. His body was tired from another busy day, but his mind refused to settle. Living with Lyra had become more natural, yet there were moments when he remembered that she was not human. She was careful, precise and curious in ways that sometimes felt almost too intense. Still, Tom had grown to enjoy their strange routine. Across the room, Lyra sat on her side of the quarters. She had finished her evening meditation, and now watched the small glowing disk on her shelf. Patterns moved across the disk like flowing water. Her face was calm as always. She did not fidget, she did not shift under the blanket, and she did not sigh like a tired human might. She simply sat alert and thoughtful. Tom turned on his side. "Do you ever sleep?" he asked. Lyra looked at him. "Not the way you do. We enter a state of quiet awareness. It allows our bodies to rest while our minds remain active. It is similar to shallow sleep." Tom nodded slowly. "Sounds useful. I wish I could do that before exams back on Earth." She tilted her head. "Why exams?" "Never mind," he said with a small smile. "It's a human thing." The room grew quiet again. Tom began to drift toward sleep when he heard her voice. It was soft but clear in the still air. "Tom, may I ask you something important?" Tom opened his eyes. "Sure, what is it?" She looked directly at him. Her eyes reflected the golden light, making them shine like dark mirrors. "If your kind had to choose between survival and kindness, what would you pick?" The question struck him like a sudden cold wind. He sat up slowly. "What do you mean?" Her voice remained steady. In our studies, we have observed that humans often act in ways that are not purely logical. When facing danger, some choose to help others even if it reduces their own chance of survival. We do not fully understand this pattern. I want to hear your answer, not from a study, but from you. Tom blinked, trying to gather his thoughts. That's a big question, he said. Lyra did not move. She waited silently. Tom stared at the floor. I think it depends on the situation. Some people would pick survival. Others might choose kindness, especially for their friends or family. For humans, kindness can be stronger than fear. Lyra's eyes narrowed slightly. That is what confuses us. Logic suggests that survival must be the highest priority, yet many humans act differently. Your history shows countless moments where people risked everything to help others. Some even gave their lives for strangers. Why? Tom felt a lump in his throat. He thought of stories he had read as a child. He thought of brave people who had saved others during disasters. Because sometimes what makes us human is not just surviving. It's choosing to do what feels right, even if it's hard. We don't always explain it with logic. Sometimes it's just the heart deciding. Lyra repeated his words quietly. The heart deciding. She looked thoughtful, almost puzzled. Our kind does not have this division between mind and heart. All choices must follow reason. It is difficult for us to imagine a situation where helping another at personal cost is the correct path. Tom leaned back against the wall. It's not always the correct path. But it's a real one. And sometimes it changes everything. She studied him closely. If you were faced with such a choice, would you act this way? Tom hesitated. I'd like to think so, he said. But I can't know for sure until it happens. People surprise themselves in those moments. Her gaze did not leave him. For a brief second, something like curiosity mixed with respect flashed in her eyes. She gave a small nod. Thank you. Your answer is useful. Tom let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. That was a heavy question for bedtime, he said with a weak laugh. Lyra lay down on her bed, her movements slow and exact. Understanding humans requires difficult questions, she said. The room returned to silence. Tom lay back down, but sleep came slowly. Her question kept repeating in his head. He wondered why she had asked it now, after weeks of quiet observation. Was it just curiosity, or was there something more behind it? The following days passed as usual, but Tom noticed a change in Lyra. She asked fewer basic questions and began asking more about human decision-making in extreme situations. During lunch, she asked him why humans sometimes choose to forgive rather than retaliate. During their run, she asked why soldiers risk their lives for their teams. Tom tried to answer each question honestly, even when he was unsure himself. He could tell she was not asking randomly. She was building towards something. One evening, they attended a shared lecture in the station's large hall. A senior officer spoke about joint missions between humans and alien species. He described how trust was not built through words but through shared trials. In a crisis, how we act together will define the future of this station, the officer said. Tom glanced at Lyra. She was sitting straight, her eyes fixed on the officer. She seemed more focused than usual. After the lecture, on the walk back to their quarters, Lyra asked another question. If you were ordered to save your people first, but others needed help too, what would you do? Tom frowned. That's a hard one. I guess I'd try to save everyone, even if it meant taking a risk. That's how most humans would feel. She nodded slowly. I see, this is the difference. Tom gave a small laugh. You ask tough questions, Lyra. They are necessary, she replied. That night, Tom finally drifted to sleep with her strange question still echoing in his mind. He did not know that soon he would face a situation where his answer would not be theoretical. It would become real. Lyra sat awake in her quiet awareness. She replayed their conversation again and again. Her species had studied humans for years, but living beside one gave her a new perspective. She began to realize that understanding humans might not come from reading reports. It would come from watching their choices when everything is at stake. The day started like any other. Tom and Lyra woke early. They went for their usual run on the station's exercise track. Afterward, they shared breakfast in their small quarters. Tom made oatmeal while Lyra carefully measured the contents of her nutrient drink. Their conversations had grown easier with time. Tom no longer felt nervous around her, and Lyra no longer stared at every small movement he made. It almost felt normal, even though nothing about their lives on Unity Station was ordinary. Tom was assigned to maintenance duty that day. He worked with a mixed team of humans and aliens to check the docking systems. Lyra had her own science tasks in a different section, studying data from deep space sensors. They planned to meet later in the evening to review a human film that Tom had chosen. He was curious to see her reaction to a classic adventure story. The first half of the day passed smoothly. Then, just as Tom was finishing a sensor check near Docking Bay 3, the station alarm suddenly sounded. A long, deep tone echoed through the corridors. Everyone stopped what they were doing. Red lights flashed along the walls. A voice came over the intercom. "Attention. Incoming supply vessel Silverwing has suffered a major systems failure. Thrusters are unstable. Rescue teams report limited time before total power loss. All emergency crew to stations." Tom's heart began to race. The Silverwing was a large transport ship that carried supplies for both human and alien crews. If it lost control near the station, it could drift into open space or collide with the outer ring. Both outcomes were dangerous. He ran toward the nearest control terminal. Data flashed across the screen. The vessel had lost primary engines and was running on emergency power. Several crew members were trapped inside because the internal systems had locked down. Escape pods were limited. Tom could already hear the tension in the voices of officers giving orders. Rescue plans were being formed quickly. Alien crew members followed strict evacuation rules. Their culture valued preservation of their people above all else. Humans, however, volunteered to stay behind to assist with repairs, even if it meant they might not escape. Lyra appeared beside Tom. She moved fast, her usual calm face focused. "I received the alert," she said. "The Silverwing is near failure. Command is asking for teams to board and stabilize its core manually. I believe you are trained for this." Tom nodded. "Yes, I've done manual core resets before. But this is risky. The ship's power system is unstable." She looked at him steadily. "Will you go?" Tom took a deep breath. "If I don't, someone else will. And we might lose the vessel and the people on it. I have to." For a moment, Lyra's expression softened, almost like she remembered their late-night conversation. Then she gave a short nod. "Then I will join the mission as science support. I can stabilize the sensor readings while you work." Tom was surprised. "Are you sure? It could be dangerous." "I am sure," she said calmly. Within minutes, Tom and Lyra joined a small rescue team boarding a shuttle. 2 humans and 2 aliens formed the crew. Their goal was clear. They needed to dock with the Silverwing, restore its core controls, and evacuate everyone before the ship lost all power. As the shuttle approached, Tom saw the vessel drifting slowly. Its lights flickered. Parts of the outer hull were scorched from a failed engine burn. The pilot attached the shuttle to a secondary airlock. Tom and Lyra followed the team through the narrow docking tunnel. Inside, the ship was dim and filled with a low hum of failing systems. The air smelled of heated metal. Emergency lights cast everything in red. The team split into 2 groups. Tom and Lyra headed toward the engineering section. The path was blocked by a fallen support beam. Tom grabbed a cutter and cleared the way. Lyra scanned the air for toxic leaks and found none. Her steady movements helped keep Tom focused. When they reached the core chamber, the problem was clear. Several control panels were offline. The main stabilizer unit had shut down. Tom rushed to the controls and started manual overrides. Lyra positioned herself near the sensor interface and began feeding him readings. "Core temperature rising," she said in her calm voice. "You have 5 minutes before automatic shutdown becomes irreversible." Tom's hands moved quickly over the manual switches. "I can bypass the lock, but I need a full systems restart. If I mess this up, we lose everything. I will monitor and alert you of any irregularities," she said. The room grew hot as power surged. Sweat formed on Tom's forehead. Lyra's steady updates helped him stay calm. He could hear distant voices over the comm channel. The other team was evacuating trapped crew members. Time was running out. Just as Tom was about to complete the override, a sudden jolt shook the ship. The emergency lights flickered. Lyra's sensors beeped rapidly. "The secondary stabilizer is failing," she said sharply. "We need a manual restart from the lower maintenance level." Tom looked at the hatch leading down. "I'll go," he said. Lyra shook her head. "You must stay here to finish the override." "I will handle the lower level." Tom hesitated. "You've never worked with human engineering systems before." She met his eyes. You will guide me. Tom gave a quick nod. All right, I'll talk you through it. Lyra climbed down the ladder into the lower section. Tom kept one hand on the comm and one on the control panel. He guided her through each step. She followed his instructions with exact precision. When she reached the final switch, she paused. This will redirect all remaining power. If I make an error, the core may overload. You won't, Tom said firmly. I trust you. She flipped the switch. The lights above flickered once, then steadied. The hum of the core grew stronger. Tom completed the final override, and the stabilizer came back online. The system screens turned green. Cheers filled the comm channel. The other team confirmed that all crew members had been evacuated. The Silver Wing's engines were stable enough for towing. Tom leaned against the panel, breathing hard but relieved. Lyra climbed back up. Her silver skin was streaked with fine dust from the lower section, but her calm expression never wavered. You did it, Tom said. We did it, she replied simply. They returned to the shuttle as the rescue operation concluded. As the shuttle pulled away, Tom looked out the window at the Silver Wing. It floated calmly now, no longer in danger. Lyra sat beside him, her gaze fixed on the ship. She was quiet, but Tom could sense something had changed. Her earlier question about survival and kindness no longer seemed like an abstract study. She had witnessed the answer with her own eyes. Back on the station, they were greeted with applause and relief. The rescue team was praised for their quick actions. Tom felt tired but proud. Lyra stood silently beside him as officers congratulated the group. Her presence was steady and strong. That night, when they returned to their quarters, Tom collapsed on his bed. Lyra stood by the window looking out into space. She turned to him and said, You risked your life for people you did not know. You did what you said humans would do. Tom smiled weakly. Yeah, I guess I had to prove it. She gave a small nod, more thoughtful than ever. I understand a little more now. The day after the Silver Wing rescue felt different on Unity Station. The usual hum of daily routines was mixed with an air of excitement. People stopped Tom in the corridors to thank him. Some gave him a friendly pat on the shoulder. Others simply nodded with quiet respect. He was not used to this kind of attention. He had joined the cultural exchange program to learn, not to become the center of stories. Yet here he was, a human maintenance worker who had helped save a ship full of people. Lyra walked beside him through the station's main hallway. Her posture was as straight as ever, but there was something new in her eyes. It was not curiosity this time. It was recognition. She had seen him act under pressure. She had seen him choose to help without hesitation. For her, this was more than a mission. It was proof of the answer to her question. When they entered the common dining area, a mix of humans and aliens turned to look at them. Conversations paused for a moment. Then a group of alien crew members stepped forward. Their leader, a tall figure with deep blue markings on his uniform, raised a hand in greeting. Your actions helped save many of our people, he said through a translator device. We honor your courage, Tom shifted awkwardly. It wasn't just me. We were a team. Everyone did their part. The alien leader nodded. Yes, but you led the critical repair. Without it, the rescue would have failed. Lyra stood silently beside Tom. She watched both groups. She noticed how humans smiled and clapped each other on the back, while the aliens gave respectful bows. Two different cultures showing gratitude in two different ways. For the first time, she truly saw the beauty in these differences. Later that day, Tom and Lyra were summoned to the command deck. The station commander, a serious but kind woman, met them in her office. Behind her, the stars stretched endlessly. I want to thank both of you for what you did, the commander said. You proved that cooperation between species is not just theory. It works in real emergencies, Tom nodded. We just did what we had to do, ma'am, the commander smiled. And that is exactly why it matters. This station is not only about science, it is about trust. What you two showed out there is the example everyone needed to see. Lyra listened carefully. Compliments were not common in her culture. Achievements were acknowledged through action, not words. Still, something about the commander's tone made her feel a quiet sense of pride. After they were dismissed, Tom and Lyra returned to their quarters. The atmosphere was peaceful. Tom sat on his bed and stretched his arms. I never thought I'd end up in a situation like that, he said. I thought I'd spend most of my time fixing pipes and running cables. Lyra stood by the window looking at the stars. Your actions changed how many here view humans, she said. They see now that your unpredictability is not weakness. It is strength, Tom laughed softly. Unpredictable strength. I kinda like that. She turned to him. Before the rescue, I asked you a question about survival and kindness. I wanted to understand your answer. Now I have seen it. You did not choose one over the other. You chose both. You risked your safety to help, and through that choice, survival became possible for many. Tom leaned back against the wall. I didn't think that deeply at the time. I just acted. And that is what makes it powerful, Lyra replied. In the following days, Tom and Lyra were invited to speak at training sessions for new exchange members. Tom described the events from a technical point of view, explaining the steps of the repair. Lyra spoke about the decision-making process she had witnessed. Her words were clear and thoughtful. Logic alone would not have achieved success, she told the new trainees. It was the combination of skill and human willingness to act beyond self-interest that made the difference. The new recruits listened closely. Some looked at Tom with admiration. Others were fascinated by how calmly Lyra explained emotional choices, as if they were data. The story of their rescue mission began to spread beyond the station. Reports were sent back to both human and alien homeworlds. It became a symbol of what cooperation could achieve. One evening, after a long day of work and meetings, Tom sat with Lyra in the observation lounge. The lounge was a wide room with a clear glass wall looking out into deep space. Few people were there at that hour. The stars shone brightly, scattered across the black. Tom took a deep breath. You know, I used to look at the stars and wonder what kind of people were out there. I never imagined I'd end up living with one of them. Lyra's gaze remained on the stars. And I never imagined I would live beside a human. My people believed we could understand everything through study, but some things must be experienced. Living here has changed my view of your kind. Tom smiled. In a good way, I hope. In a real way, she replied. Your actions showed me that understanding is not built only with questions. It is built with shared moments. They sat in silence for a while, watching a distant ship pass slowly. For Tom, it felt peaceful. For Lyra, it felt meaningful in a way she could not fully describe with logic. As weeks turned into months, Tom and Lyra continued their work together. They became known as one of the most effective human-alien pairs on the station. New missions were planned with both of them as part of the lead teams. Their trust in each other grew stronger with each challenge. One day, a young human recruit approached Tom in the corridor. Is it true that during the Silver Wing rescue you said you trusted an alien to fix a critical system? The recruit asked. Tom nodded. Yes, and she did it perfectly. The recruit looked amazed. That's brave. Tom shook his head. It's not bravery. It's trust. You'll see. Once you work with them, you learn to trust their strengths like they learn to trust ours. Lyra overheard this from a distance. For a brief moment, a small, almost invisible smile touched her lips. It was not part of her usual behavior, but it was real. Months later, Tom remembered that first night when she sat at the foot of his bed. Back then, everything had felt uncertain. Now she was no longer just his alien roommate. She was his partner, his teammate, and his friend. The strange question that had once frozen him now had a clear answer written in their shared experience. On Unity Station, under the endless stars, the story of a human and an alien living together was no longer just an experiment. It had become a symbol of what could happen when two very different worlds decided to trust each other.